This is not your grave, but you are welcome in it.
Colonial Era. Jovian Moons Campaign, 2160 CE. A brief conflict between the corporate-backed Freedens and the neo-communist Kozloviks on several of the Jovian moons. This conflict, spurred by a Freeden attack on a team of colonial advisors sent by the United Nations to help police the often violent region. Though the conflict was brief, it saw heavy casualties, including many UN forces who were sent to try and stop the fighting. This conflict was the first major fighting in what would become nearly a decade of continuous warfare in the extraterrestrial colonies in the Sol system. The Rainforest Wars began. February 1st, 2162 CE. South America, Earth. This was a large-scale conflict between the fascist Freedens, the neo-communist Kozloviks, and the forces of the UN. The fighting was a continuation of violent clashes that had sprung up between the groups throughout the Sol system, notably the Jovian Moons Campaign 2 years prior. Mars Campaign. December. A retaliatory strike by the United Nations to eliminate the Kozloviks, a rebel organization labeled as terrorists by the UN. The fighting was a continuation of the Rainforest Wars, which ended earlier that year without resolution. The campaign saw the first use of UNSC Marines in space combat, and led directly into the Interplanetary War. Interplanetary War. January 1st, 2164 to March 31st, 2170. The Interplanetary War was a major conflict between the United Nations, neo-communists known as the Kozloviks, and the corporate-backed Freedens, a movement with strong fascist roots. Due to increasing population and limited land prior to the invention of the Shah-Fujikawa translite engine, conflict arose starting in the late 2150s with terrorist attacks on Earth and among the colonies in the Sol system. The conflict was eventually won by the UN, ending with the signing of the Callisto Treaty and the formation of the Unified Earth Government. Shah-Fujikawa translite engine invented, April 1st, 2291. Earth. The Shah-Fujikawa translite engine, informally known as the FTL drive or slip space drive, was invented by a team of scientists led by Tobias Fleming Shaw and Wallace Fujikawa, and unveiled to humanity in April 2291. The drive was a breakthrough for interstellar travel, and was responsible for starting humanity's colonization of the stars over the following decades and centuries. Orion Project. First Class. April 12, 2321 to December 31st, 2325. The first permutation of the Orion Project, the predecessor to the future Spartan programs in the 26th century, was initiated consisting of 5 test candidates. Though the project showed some promise, it was eventually cancelled, and all 5 candidates died within 1 year of the end of the program. The Domas Diaspora. January 2362. The Domas Diaspora was a time period during humanity's expansion into the galaxy that saw massive colonization efforts of hundreds of colony worlds in the span of around 30 years. Following the invention of the Shah-Fujikawa translite engine in 2291, humanity began constructing colony ships in 2310, though colonization efforts wouldn't officially begin for several decades. On January 1st, 2362, a fleet of 100 colony ships, led by the Odyssey, left the Sol system for Epsilon Eridani, starting the first of humanity's extrasolar colonies at Reach, Tribute, and Circumstance. By 2390, over 200 total colonies would be founded, later becoming what is now known as the Inner Colonies. The decades that followed saw the formation of over 800 total worlds, the majority of which became known as the Outer Colonies. Planet Reach is colonized. The first ever extrasolar colony established by humanity was colonized sometime in 2362 by the colony ship Odyssey. Reach would grow to become the largest human colony in the galaxy and would maintain its status as an economic and military powerhouse. Hydra System Massacre 2400 CE. A series of massacres that occurred periodically throughout the history of the Hydra system, a near-lawless system within the domain of the Unified Earth government. With pirates and insurrectionists being recurring threats within the Hydra system, military forces of the United Nations Space Command occasionally arrive in the system to weed out justice with the use of nuclear weapons. Planet Arcadia is colonized. 2429. One of the many outer worlds to be colonized in the 25th century was settled sometime in 2429. Arcadia would become a popular tourist destination in its first 100 years of colonization. Meridian Moon is colonized. 2431 CE. A moon orbiting Hestia 5 in the Hestia system was an outer colony world colonized sometime in 2431, quickly becoming a thriving economy. Unggoy Rebellion 2462 CE. High Charity, Covenant Capital City. Following years of abuse of Unggoy at the hands of the Kigyar, culminating in the sterilization of thousands via poisoning, the Unggoy Rebellion began in 2462 to protest their treatment by the Kigyar and the Covenant as a whole. Though individually weak, the rebellion proved effective due to the large numbers of Unggoy living on High Charity. To stop the rebellion, an arbiter was assigned, and he proceeded to begin glassing the Unggoy homeworld of Balaho. Fearing the loss of so many breeding partners, the Unggoy rebellion ceased, putting an end to the brief conflict. The Unggoy gained respect following the rebellion, however, as the Singhili observed drive and honor in the Unggoy they hadn't seen before. Because of this, Unggoy were incorporated into the military ranks and given weapons for the first time, though they were still considered the lowest of the Covenant species. Planet Harvest is colonized. 2468. The outer colony world of Harvest, one of the youngest human colonies, was settled sometime in 2468. In the years following, Harvest grew into one of the primary food sources for all of humanity. The First Immolation, 2470 to 2480. Planet Doisak. Prior to the Jirlahani's inclusion into the Covenant, a decade-long civil war known as the First Immolation devastated the brute homeworld of Doisak and reduced the Jirlahani society to pre-industrial technologies. Though little is known of the war, millions were killed and the planet was covered in nuclear fallout.
But finally, you looked up from the blood and from the dirt and from the dying to the stars.